Sound on, vision on, and we're away. Welcome to day 7 of week 30 of Urban Agoge. Or like say Urban Agoge, huh? And the reason that you'll often hear me say sound on and vision on is because when television first came to the UK, and I'm not sure whether it was before America, but certainly the uptake of television is was bigger in America, because I think just after the Second World War there was a lot more money sloshing around in the pockets of Americans than there were in English people, because we bankrupted ourselves fighting that war. English television started in the 1930s with very little uptake because it was still experimental. They were still working out how on earth you could take the sort of broadcasting and entertainment from radio and put it on television, because they kind of, instead of considering it sort of broadcastable theatre, they considered it to be radio with pictures. But at the beginning of every broadcast, pardon me, that wasn't a nice sound, but at the beginning of every broadcast, the one television studio and transmitter in the United Kingdom was at Alexandra Palace in London, and at the beginning of every sort of day's broadcasting, which wasn't very long, an announcer would say, sound on, vision on, this is Alexandra Palace. And that's always sort of struck me ever since, I picked up my first video camera back in 1987. So in 1987 I was at what we call tertiary college, which is probably more like senior high grade in high school. I got to do a video course, and it taught me an important thing about creativity. You see, if you're going to go and learn how to do something creative, when you turn up to a class that is a creative class, especially when it's to do with broadcasting, you will find that twice as many people as you think would turn up. So you turn up to a classroom or an office, and they say, we're going to teach you about broadcasting, or we're going to teach you about radio, or we're going to teach you about video production or sound production or anything like that. It's always heavily oversubscribed, because everybody thinks it's a piece of piss and it doesn't require any planning. Fair enough, if you're watching this series, then you're aware that it doesn't require a great deal of planning. That's a fair comment. But that's because, I'm not making a video a week, and I don't have infinite time to make that video. So everything has to be as simple to do and edit and sort out as possible. So, yes. So sound on, vision on. But when you turn up, the first day it's always heavily oversubscribed, and as soon as people figure out it's actual work, the class size usually halves. And in fact, there were about 60 people it was an elective course for video production, and about 60 people turned up on the first day. And because it was an elective course and I was doing other sort of courses, I said to the technician that was running the course, because literally they were going to let us run wild with all the equipment and show us how to use it. Essentially, that was their job, and give us a few pointers on what they thought made an effective piece of video. So I said, are you sure you want me to stick around? Because this seems heavily oversubscribed. And the guy gave me a heavily tired look, and he said, look, if you really want to do this, obviously it's a class, we teach it, we get paid, but we don't get paid if nobody turns up. We do want some people to do it, but whenever we announce this, loads of people turn up, and then within a few weeks it's like a handful of students. So I stuck it out, and towards the end of me doing that class, I was the only person that turned up every week. So I got a full television studio to play with. But that was still back in an era when a video camera would have cost you £2,000 or £3,000, well outside my financial reach. And the editing systems had been donated by the BBC because they took up an entire room. But it was an interesting thing. We even had a few of the old-fashioned 1950s through 1970s rostrum cameras, which is a gigantic video camera on basically a trolley that you physically push around in the studio. So you'd have people that would, people that would be referred to as dolly grips, that would physically drag the camera closer or further away, depending on the focal length, and there would be markings on the floor. So if you look at really old television studios, they've always got really smooth floors, and any floor effects were generally painted on. So if they wanted it to look like lino or stone, they'd get interior designers to paint said floor type on, because you needed a smooth surface for the rostrum cameras to move about in. So anything you've watched from the 60s or 70s that wasn't a fixed set, that had like an open-ended sort of theatrical set, all those floors are perfectly smooth. Oh, the age of craftsmanship, you see. That's what you get for listening to old people. When I was a lad. So yeah, I've had a love affair with the idea of making television since I was very small. Yes, so we're out in the woods for pointless rambling. I think I said everything about. That was a divergence. Alexandra Palace to my school days. So yeah, so I'm out in the woods. Sorry about yesterday. I did shoot footage yesterday, but I think I've got a little bit more to learn about that GoPro Hero 2. I don't want to consign it. I don't want to say, because I've seen Kevin using it. He shot some nice footage with it. So I'm probably not doing it right. It's a case of PEBCAC, which is an engineer's acronym, well, an IT engineer's acronym. Problem exists between keyboard and chair. PEBCAC. So as is usual for me, 4 million ideas, 10 minutes to make one of them happen, usually resulting in none of them happening. All the things I've been talking about in the past few weeks are not exactly on the back burner. It's just getting the energy to schlep out and set things up and do it, but I'm hoping things will improve. However, my working week for the next couple of weeks anyway is just going to be insane. My timetable for work goes down to about 44 hours next week. Not this week coming. This week coming, it's mental. It's about 48 plus hours actually at work, plus your 12 commuting hours. So that's 60 hours out of my, add in the anticipated 7 or 8 hours sleep and getting up and all that sort of crap. It means that it will be a minor miracle if you get 7 videos next week. Hooray, they cried. So, let's do some, that's the point of having this. So I think from the you were out, screw you notification that I got from Royal Mail, lovely chaps, best mail delivery system, beats out any other courier or anything like that. But because my front door doesn't have a letterbox, which is another long story, I've got a post box on the wall out next to the door, and almost everything is too big for my letterbox. So yes, so I think the little screen has arrived, so look forward to some more framing for the action camera monitor. So I'm going to build a very cheap and cheerful sort of a mount for it, and then we shall see, hopefully. So yeah, complicated, isn't it? So yeah, so next week should be a jump in video quality, should be some more things to talk about. I'm only out for a very quick walk this morning. It's Sunday and I've got to be at work at midday, obviously. And then so my work time goes crazy up until about the early part of December. Then I've got 6 days off. I was only expecting 5, but I'll take the 6 days off, during which I want to devote at least 2 full days to filming. So maybe I can devote 2 full days, or 2 full sort of work days, sort of like a 10 till 4 stretch of filming and a couple of 10 till 4 stretches of bits of DIY and tidying and stuff like that. So yeah, so this morning I shall be eating the last of my bacon for a while in my quest towards veganism. And yeah, it's one of those things, really. I don't want to talk about it all the bloody time because I don't want to be that vegan. I haven't even turned vegan yet, and I'm already talking about it all the sodding time, which just shows you how close a relationship it's possible to have with food, really. So I'm hoping that it doesn't go disastrously wrong. But yeah, so it's weird. So first off, when you look at if I was to give you a tour of my fridge, it would look like a very middle-class fridge. I don't mean to go on about class either, but my experiences in the last year, class is a thing. There is definitely a thing. So yeah, so it looks like I've had a complete moment as far as what should we call it? As far as healthy food goes. It looks like a health food nuts fridge, and I really can't be accused of being that. But yeah, so I'm going to keep careful track of my expenditure in December and just go, right, okay, I reckon I was spending at least, this is just for me and the cat, at least £150 on food per month, which is quite a bit. But mostly that was snack shopping, which is a bad idea, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of months. I just think it's because increased workload and trying to battle through some ennui. And yeah, so, and now the vegan thing. I think, you know, food is one of those things, it's a bit like your relationship with your bed or where you live and stuff like that. It's very primal. But it's like a multi-win from my perspective. First and foremost, I think that an incredible amount of our food is going to be vegetarian or vegan within the next 10 years. And I think within 20 years, quite a lot of people will be vegan. We've already reached the magic 3% of people that want to do something about it. So I'm not a pioneer. I might be unusual amongst my friends for just going, yeah, we kind of got to go that way. But in the big scheme of things, I'm coming in after the show started, really, because we're now into a conservative estimate, 3% vegans in the UK and something like 7% in America. So it's well past the 3.5% of getting stuff done from a revolution point of view. It's well past the tipping point of things happening. And in the UK, I don't know if people out there in America land or the rest of the world have seen it or seen the controversy. There was a Tesco's advert, and Tesco's is probably the biggest groceries retailer. And it was it was a calculated advert to get you to buy a product. All adverts are. But it was like a little girl telling her dad that she didn't want to eat animals anymore, and her dad's heart melts and he makes her a vegan sausage casserole, you know. And people have gone batshit. You know, it's just like an option on your food, people. Nobody kicks off about a Pringles ad or an ad for potato waffles. But yeah, it was just a sweet little ad saying, you know, you don't have to eat meat. Tesco's are producing options, and they're producing pretty cheap, you know, cheaper than meat options if you wanted to do meat meter-like products. But yeah, like the National Farmers Union sent in a complaint because the little girl says, I don't want to eat animals anymore. But also, you know, I can see Tesco's point of view. You know, if you make vegan plant-based foods, you can much more easily make them wherever you need to be. You don't have to raise animals or anything. And oh, this hill's always a killer. Yeah, so more local produce. But the National Farmers Union of the UK went ballistic because somebody had the temerity to say that meat was made from animals. So yeah, that was kind of funny. What I imagined was the alternative advert where a teenager walks in and announces that they're vegan, and then when somebody says why, you cut to all the most horrific images from slaughterhouses to a heavy metal soundtrack, like real dark satanic heavy metal, and chickens being hung upside down still alive, and calves being bolt gunned. Maybe to Blood for the Blood God by Bolt Thrower back in the 80s. But yeah, it was really, I think if nobody had complained, it would have just gone away. But lots of meat eating people on breakfast television went mental. So there's that. It's fun being part of a revolution, I'll tell you that. But I'm a crappy vegan at the moment. I still haven't even got the stabilisers off my vegan bike. But I don't think I could make the transition, although I am doing vegan stuff because I didn't buy any meat with this month's shop apart from cat food, and I'm not demanding my cat go vegan in the same way as I don't demand my friends go vegan or my family. No, you'll see it or you won't. It's just I'd like to find some good recipes for stuff that involves things that I can grow here, because that's my secondary point of veganism. It can only happen when you've got the sort of supply chain, so vegan people who don't want to eat any meat products at all have got access to products from other countries. So yeah. So the point being is that, yeah, you probably could go vegan, but if your country were to ever get cut off as far as trade goes, any Western country really, because we rely so heavily on rice and soy, or you would rely so heavily on rice and soy in order to have a vegan diet, everything's got to be shipped in. I mean, as far as stuff like rice and soy goes, I mean, there's shipping, you know. If we're going to go really green, we're probably going to have to come up with some different options as far as the shipping goes. Yeah, we're in this bit of the woods again, where I saw the deer. Cool, huh? So yeah, so there is the shipping issue. So, you know, it's not necessarily the greenest diet in the world. I mean, possibly you could have someone that didn't eat much meat, but ate more locally grown vegetables to wherever you are, and just ate meat on occasion to top up their diet. So it is a bit 21st century, first world solutions, you know. But yeah, and I think people do use it to impinge on other people's choice. But I also think that the meat industry, as it is, where we use, you know, 16 to 20 acres of land to produce an acre's worth of food, in, you know, where, you know, the Amazon rainforest is being cut down for beef cattle, and they're called this operations, where the cattle operation is in the centre and all the soy is grown around the outside in a very convenient way, and usually the packing plant is within where they're keeping the cattle. So it just uses up an enormous amount of space, and yes, so, you know, the majority of the Amazon rainforest that's being burned down is being burned down to grow soy, but that's not soy for human consumption, that's soy for cattle consumption. And because cattle can't really live on soy, they have to be given all sorts of nutrients along with that, you know, antibiotics, because they're kept so packed so closely together, they just die of disease. So it's not a very efficient way, and that's what keeps your cheap hamburger, you know, amazingly cheap. You know, they have to drop the quality of life in order to maximize the profit. So yeah, so there's combating that kind of aggressive capitalism where the well-being of the people that work there, the well-being of the cows, the well-being of the land is super compromised. Now some cattle farmers are coming up with a rotational system for grazing, so it's always grass-fed and the cows are outside, but still, we're still killing them at the end of it. So there's a kind of like world tactical aspect to the reason I'm doing it. So there's that, you know, it's if you're going to complain about the state of the planet and the environment, you kind of at least got to cut down your meat consumption and eat some different things. And if you're gonna you know, so it's kind of, these things go hand in hand, you know, if you want to. And also, like, if we're going to move as a species towards this, you know, period of ethics, where we're going to understand stuff and we're going to try and do stuff that's a bit more of a team effort as team humanity goes, you know, we're using up way too much land to feed, you know, 1/16 of the people it could feed. You know, so, and it's causing another sort of environmental apocalypse, not just the land use, but the water use, the production of greenhouse gases, and largely, you know, cows don't fart, but they belch. And the reason they belch so much is because they're fed corn and soy, you know, because they can't process all of it. So yeah, it's not good for the cows. No, the cows are not expected to be there for the long term. So there's that, there's the ethical, you know, don't want to kill an animal just for the sake of taste buds, when I can get something along the same lines, but without that kind of, you know, what do you call it? That kind of concern. It's like, okay, I don't have to think about this. But if I was then to switch to, you know, eating just avocado on toast, which you probably could do, then you're flying in avocados from South American countries that are also chopping down rainforest and all that sort of crap. So it's not perfect. It's better. It still means that you're a bit of a hypocrite if you're saying for the environment or you're saying for animal rights or whatever. I mean, I've still got leather shoes, for fuck's sake. And we're going back to that thing last week where I was talking about being a hypocrite. You know, you can't exit from society. It's really difficult. And society will still come and find you, even if you managed it. And the amount of money you need to get off grid because land prices are so high in the UK, just, you know, you'd have to have a couple of £100,000, which is, you know, 10 times what I earn in a year, so it's not going to happen, you know, or I'd have to do an unethical job to be able to afford, just all the endless shit. You know, there is no exit from society at the moment. And if there's no exits, this is a quote for you, if you can't see the exit, it's not consensual. You know, I'm not consensually in society, I'm just here. You know, if the people that want to complain about me looking for some kind of ethical response to being alive, it's always going to push buttons. You know, you can always argue that everything that you eat has got some kind of sense that it's alive, possibly, that we just don't know about. You know, a Buddhist would say a mushroom has the same sense of being as a rock, as a river, as a, you know, as a cow or a bird or a human. But I think you're getting into semantics then, and that's, you know, it's almost like I don't have the mental kung fu to fight that. I'm just a bod trying to make sense of it all. So what have we got? We've got the ethical considerations, we've got the environmental considerations, which sort of bleed into the ethical considerations. We've got the societal considerations, because, you know, it used to be way more expensive to be vegan. It's just not now. It's about as expensive, if not a little bit cheaper, than eating animal products. So given that there's no money thing, given that there's a load more choice now, given that loads of people are doing it, and a significant percentage of the population are now choosing to go that way, at least for some of their diet. So yeah, so we've got a social revolution, we've got a planetary revolution, and we've got an ethics revolution. And all you've got to do to join the phalanx of people that are saying, nah, we can do this better. We can share out food more evenly across the planet. I would like to, before I die, go to sleep knowing that no one on the planet is starving. And I've got more of a chance of that happening because of the health issue, in that there's a good chance that it's a bit healthier. At least you're thinking about what goes into your food. You're making more food from scratch. You're eating less processed food, CRAP, you know, carbonated drinks, refined sugars, what was the other one? Artificial sweeteners and processed food. You know, because sometimes you just got to make sure. Like, I've been finding a few recipes for things like oat milk, which would really reduce my reliance on whitener, because I quite like white coffee, and I probably will move to black coffee because it's just more sodding convenient to have a cup of Joe Black. And the good thing about black coffee is you can always thin it out with the water that you boiled to make the coffee. Win. So yeah, and my coffee comes from places like Nicaragua and stuff like that. You know, and you know, the more, it was a bit like fair trade. The more people that demand fair trade goods, there is a market for it. Therefore, capitalism will attempt to remedy that. You know, the void in the market, like with vegan food. Most supermarkets in the UK now have a vegan food range. You know, and that's usually meat analogues. I remembered the word analogues, but you know, perhaps it's something that we need for a transition. Maybe we can figure out an all vegetable diet or an all vegetable smoothie. That'd be nice. You know, even if you have to pinch your nose to drink it, an all vegetable and fruit smoothie that just packs in all the vitamins you need for about a week. Or you can drink 100 ml of it every day, like a Yakult yogurt. So yeah, so you got that. Then you got the class war thing, which goes into the health thing. You know, there is a good chance that people will live longer. You'll get less disease. You're less prone to cancer. You're less prone to diabetes and heart disease. All the things that kill working class people. So if working class people start living as long and having their faculties together as long as middle class and upper class people do, you know, imagine being retired and living for a very long time as a working class man. Typically not something we manage to do. We tend to die off in our 60s and 70s. You know, so what happens if you're really healthy and hench and fit? Project Morlock. So yeah, so there's all that. You know, there's a slight class war thing. There is the fact that the market for animal-free foods, because there's a market, there will be competition on price and taste, and you'll eventually get down to a base level where it's seriously cheaper to be vegan or vegetarian than it is to eat meat, because there will be less of a market for meat, therefore the price will go up, and then meat eaters, you know, people who do still want to eat animal products, yeah, unfortunately that's going to get more, but, you know, market forces working for the longevity of people. But that's all I'm going to talk about, you know, unless I find out something, you know, really, unless you've got any questions or you want me to talk about it more, that's where I'm going to leave it for a bit, until I've got some reporting back from the front to do for you, or I find something interesting and new. But if you want to try a vegan cheese, definitely Violite if you're in the UK. It's kind of like a super firm Dairy Lee. It's actually pretty good. So if you imagine that it's very posh cheese, it's like, that's how I've come at it. I've gone to posh people's food. So you have like a posh cheese sandwich, but it's Violite, and it is a little bit more expensive, but we're still talking about, today I've got Branston pickle, tomatoes, Branston pickle is vegan, tomatoes, spinach, and a couple of slices of Violite cheese, which still makes it cost, still about 80p for a sandwich, whereas to buy a sandwich it cost me about £2.50. So, you be the judge, our lines are open. So yeah, back to the idea of Sean Kennedy's, you know, sandwich making thing. We come full circle. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I've got things to do. I've got bags to pack and I've got work to go do. So thank you for bearing with me. Thanks for watching, and do take care. Okay, so this is me using the GoPro Hero 2 that Kevin is a Geek so kindly gave to me. This is me attempting to put some footage together. It may well be that I need to use one of my old action cams as a work cam for those days where I can't record any vlogging. So yeah, so I'm at work, I'm on my smoke break. That's going to become a thing of the past. Maybe not the break, maybe I'll take a meditation break when I quit smoking. So yeah, heavily non-vegan breakfast. I had bacon and eggs because I've got bacon to use up, and that's a dead animal, and it's, you know, what good does it do to throw it in the bin? I might at least get some calories for it, but that's the last bacon I'll be buying. I bought some eggs for my transition period, so I've currently got about 3 dozen eggs. No, maybe not even that. Two dozen eggs in the fridge. So I'll be finishing off using those up. Outside of that, I think there's some mayonnaise. Again, not going to buy any more unless I can find some reasonably priced vegan mayonnaise. And I've got a few cans of tuna and a few bits and bats of meat-containing stuff. So it's November the 16th. So it would technically be day 6 of week 30 of Urban Agogi. Been working for 2 hours. That's why I'm really enjoying this cigarette. So yeah, so I may well record some more bloggy type stuff. I'm not saying everybody's got to go vegan. I'm not even recommending you as a viewer go vegan. I think it probably might be a good idea if a lot of us quit beef. I think beef is something we could cut out of our lives without any hassle. But once you realise you're quitting beef for environmental reasons or, you know, just animal cruelty reasons, if you do decide to do that, then you start looking at the wider levels of it. But, you know, beef's a good start. Anything's a good start. You know, buying free-range eggs instead of battery-farmed eggs is a slightly better start. Buying eggs locally where you know the conditions the chickens are in, anything is a step. But you don't have to take any of them, it's just me on the internet. You don't want to do it, don't. But there are some good alternatives to meat. There's a different dietary change you can make. I'll be keeping an eye on my health. I'm going to find and charge up my cheap fitness regulator and start giving you an idea of my blood pressure, see if that changes at all, my resting heart rate. I'll be doing more fitness stuff in the next few months, including more weights, so I'll keep you posted. So this is like part 1 of a quick part of what I'm going to film today, because I just didn't have time this morning. Got out of bed at 8, I had about 2 hours to get showered, fed, chilled out in order to come to work for a 10-hour shift. So I'll keep you posted, and just in case I don't record anything else, thanks for watching and do take care. Okay, so this may well be a handy night vision test for the GoPro. I'm just at the end of my lunch break. I know this isn't much of a video, but I like testing out new tech, especially if I manage to get it essentially for free from Kevin is a Geek. But it means I can't gesticulate. So apologies for there not being really any video today. It's just been me testing stuff out. But yeah, tomorrow morning back to normal video, and we'll see what we get when I get it back home. Thanks for watching. Do take care.